Does Kofi Kingston deserve to main event WrestleMania this year in 2019? What up, y'all? Welcome back to the review space. In this video, I want to discuss this topic regarding Kofi, one-third of the New Day. So what's up with Kofi Kingston? You know, it seems like he could main event WrestleMania 35 this year, right? So, I mean, it's possible he was taken off Fastlane by Vinnie Mac himself, replaced by Kevin Owens, and now he doesn't have a title shot. He doesn't have a, championship title match for the WWE title, WWE belt. This is the SmackDown title, so this is not the Raw title, which is the universal main belt in the A show of the company. So I think a lot of fans would look at Kofi as somebody that could potentially win this belt, especially as a SmackDown title. As a secondary, world champion or WWE champion, somebody that might not necessarily be the A show champion, but he could be the B champion the same way that AJ Styles was, or Daniel Bryan, somebody that could be, Mr. Silver Medal, the silver medalist, the secondary champion. He's not necessarily the face of the company, but he's a top guy. He's somebody that could carry that belt at least for a little bit and be a convincing main eventer. And actually finally make this guy into one of the top, also in history books too, having Kofi as the first ever black champion, somebody who is not necessarily considered mixed race, somebody, no disrespect to The Rock, but The Rock is half black, half Samoan. And his facial features look a little bit more on the Samoan side, so I think people kind of look at him as, he's part black, but he's not fully black the way that Kofi Kingston... And by the way, Kofi Kingston, if I'm not mistaken, is African. He is, he's Ghanaian, right? He's from Ghana. So the guy is definitely as black as it gets. He's from Africa. He's the real deal. He's not, from what I know, I don't think he's mixed race. He's definitely... So he's somebody that the, black wrestling fans, black WWE fans could even look at and go, all right, at least there is somebody on the WWE title history books that is actually, African descent, full black, full African. So that's something, what I'm saying? And I think there's a good chance that Kofi could win. Now, does he deserve to win? I'm seeing a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but some people complain about this. Some people are wondering, does he really deserve to be a WWE champion? They've given the arguments that, listen, he's not really ready for this yet. He's not main event material yet. They haven't pushed him yet. He was just slotted in as a temporary replacement for Mustafa Ali. So how could they even make him into a WWE champion when Kofi Kingston was basically just a replacement? And he's a temporary fill-in for Elimination Chamber. That's all he really was. And to some degree, I can understand that. He wasn't given a full-blown, incredible push that you could take him seriously as a main event contender for the WWE title. It's only extremely recently, right before Elimination Chamber. That's perfectly understandable. I get it. But the thing is, he is very talented. He's good on the mic, and he can still go inside the ring. It's not even a tenure thing. Like, I don't care if he's been around for 11 years, necessarily. I don't think just because you've been around for over a decade means that you should be given WWE title shots. Guys like, I'm sure guys like Zack Ryder's been around for many, many years, and there's been other wrestlers in the past and of course in the present where it's like they're a veteran but they don't necessarily deserve a WWE title shot. Guys like Bob Holly, for example. Hardcore Bob Holly, where he was around for years and years and years in the WWE from the mid-90s to the mid-2000s. He didn't necessarily deserve to be in that top spot. He didn't necessarily deserve to be a world heavyweight champion, the big gold belt, or the WWE title. He could have been... He just wasn't over enough. He just wasn't over enough or popular enough to warrant a push in the main event. I think with Kofi, we've seen that big pop and that big crowd reaction. That big pop from the crowd I mean, they like the idea of Kofi going to the main event at Fastlane and having that potential title match against Daniel Bryan. That would have been a really cool thing. And at WrestleMania, I think it could even be possible. And it could be a big thing, too, at WrestleMania 35. This year, not necessarily being the final match, not necessarily main eventing, but being one of the featured title matches at WrestleMania 35. I think that could be a cool match. And it could be a great moment if they gave him the title at WrestleMania, no less, and have him win it. That would be one exciting moment. And it would last throughout history. Kofi's been very reliable for many, many years. But not just that, he's got the talent to back it up. I know, again, some people will complain he doesn't deserve it. He's just a tag team guy. He's just a tag team guy. You're not going to put the belt on just some random, some tag team veteran, and just because he's been in a tag team, all of a sudden you can't just slot him into the main event, singles picture, and then not main event, but the WWE World Title picture, and have him go up against one of the top champions in your company. Some people have given the argument like that, where it's like you can't just, back in the day, you'll never have somebody like, let's say, let's say Christian and Edge back in like 1999, early 2000. And let's say around like 2001, 2002, and then you take Christian out of nowhere, who was a really good tag team guy, but then just immediately slot him into the WWE title picture or the WCW title picture. During the Invasion era, you just immediately slot him in, or even the big gold belt when that was happening in 2000, maybe early 2000s, 2003, 2004, something like that. You can't just slot him in just magically and just give him that push. It has to be a slow burn. It has to be a slow push, and it has to be gradually where their stock is continuously rising, but slowly over time, where when you reach the WrestleMania season, so around February, March, April, now you have this guy who has a groundswell of support, and now he's getting a big pop from the crowd. He's not the champion yet, but the fans are ready to see him as the champion. Kind of like Stone Cold Steve Austin between late 97 and early 98, right before he became WWF champion at WrestleMania 1998. Or even somebody like, John Cena to a certain degree. Between 2004 and early 2005, when he was getting a bit of a push and he was getting a good crowd reaction as the battle rapper, right? He was the battle MC, battle rapper, 8 Mile inspired gimmick. And then the fans were starting to kind of react to him in a positive way. They turned him babyface. He was feuding against Carlito. He got his United States champion spinner belt, the custom belt. So there were different things that they were trying to make and associate with Cena that would indicate that he was becoming a top guy. And he wasn't the top guy yet, but he was getting there. They wanted him to be the top star by 2005, by Mania 2005, and they were gradually giving him big wins, making him look strong, look like a credible champion, a credible potential top star. Same with Batista. When he was feuding with Triple H in early 2005, Evolution was imploding into itself. They were starting to infight and have that feud between Triple H and Batista. And what do? They make Batista look strong, have him give him win after win after win, and make him look strong heading into WrestleMania 35. Now with Kofi, it's a little bit different because he's looked strong recently because they've given him certain wins and they made him look good heading into Elimination Chamber, I think, and then with the Fastlane thing, heading into Fastlane, I'm sure, and heading into Mania, they're probably going to do something with him, and if they don't, then they're making a mistake if they don't push him. There's definitely a case of arguing maybe he's not completely ready yet, or it feels kind of rushed, or it feels kind of forced. But it's like, how many chances do you think Kofi is going to get to be the main event, to be a champion? I mean, they forced it on Jinder Mahal already. If you think that the WWE title is like super credible or super like prestigious, it's really not. It's lost a lot of prestige, giving it to guys like Jinder, you know, giving it to guys like Dean Ambrose when they barely did anything with him, and they never really booked him that strongly. They put it on guys like Seth Rollins, and he was losing to guys like John Cena, who was he was the U.S. champion. This was back in 2015, and they make certain guys look weak anyway. We're at a period in wrestling history, during a time in wrestling when they don't even have big stars anymore. They don't really have that top drawing main eventer anymore. They don't have that singles mega star like an Austin or a Rock or a Hogan. So even somebody like Kofi, it's more believable for him to win it now at this day and age, because he's no less cheered than some of the other guys on the roster that competed for that title. I think he's definitely gotten over, and I think he's popular enough, especially with the New Day gimmick, where it's a likable trio of guys, a likable, talented, like three guys that have charisma, that have good mic skills, and they have good chemistry together as a team. So I just think it's very believable that he could win. He doesn't necessarily have to be a singles guy, although it would be kind of nice and a little bit different if they finally made him into a singles guy again, but give him that serious push where he's, taken a little bit more, he got a little bit more edge to him, a little bit more of a mean streak, and a little bit more of a, listen, I can do everything on my own, I don't need help, I don't need the New Day, I don't need Xavier or Big E to back me up. Although I think it helps. Maybe they need to do a heel turn, make them a little bit angry or something like that. Make them just different. It'd be actually kind of cool if they went back to that pseudo-militant kind of gimmick when they first started, like right at the very beginning when Xavier started cutting that promo. He was wearing almost like Malcolm X glasses, and he was cutting a promo on them, and he was like, "Listen, it's time for us to unite and fight back," or something like that, and he was talking to Big E and Kofi, and it was almost like they were becoming a pseudo new version of the Nation of Domination. So that was kind of interesting, and I thought they could have gone somewhere. They could have gone into a different direction. They could have gone into a more militant, three black guys that's like fed up with the system and just completely angry and completely not almost like anti-authority, but they do it in a black power kind of way, like a newer 2010s version of the Nation of Domination, where hey, we're fed up, we're sick and tired of being treated like second-class citizens or being forgotten about. It's time for us to rise up, and you're going to listen to us, whether you like it or not. And they do it through constantly just being mean guys, being very, very aggressive, and going after baby faces and jumping them and totally, just being dominant, having that mean streak, looking very almost like a heel version of the Shield. That would have been pretty cool. I would have dug it back in what year was that? 2014, I think, 2014, around that time. So do I think that Kofi could be a credible WWE champion? Of course. He certainly has. He's got the mic. Again, he's got the mic skills. He's got the in-ring ability. The only problem, too, with Kofi is that I think he's kind of fragile. And especially him being a little bit older now. He's not exactly a young man anymore. He's a tenured veteran. He's been around for over a decade. So he's not like this young, super fresh new talent anymore. I think that it's almost like with Edge. When Edge first became champ in 2006, he's been with the company since 1998, 1999. So he was a late bloomer. And I think with Kofi, if he does become WWE champion, that's going to be the same thing. Where you never know, but he could get injured. He could suffer a serious injury and have some serious health issue where he can't continue anymore, and he's got to forfeit the belt. I don't want that to happen either. I don't want him to be like at risk. I don't want him to become the champion. They give him that grueling schedule of WWE champion and constantly almost like an AJ style schedule where he's having these crazy matches, and then next thing you know he's getting injured left and right, and then he can't continue anymore, and then his career is cut short. That's a risk, that's a possibility. But I think that out of all the current guys they have, I think Kofi has a pretty good chance of becoming champion. I do want him. I want to see him. It would be a good validation with his talent, all the years he's put in, and not just all the years, but just because he's got some charisma. I always harp on about, we want stars, we want characters, we want personalities, somebody with charismatic promos, charismatic personality, with charisma, somebody who's got that appeal or drawing ability. The New Day is a draw, kind of, right? They sold merchandise. They were a pretty hot act, at least a few years ago. Maybe they've been stagnated a little bit, but this could give them that brand new spark, a brand new fresh blood, fresh life kind of thing, where it kind of reignites the act, especially if they go back to that militant, black power kind of heel characters at the when they started, right at the very beginning when they first formed together. More militant, more almost like a pseudo social justice warrior, pseudo SJW heel faction, where it's like, we're the mistreated black folks. Now we gotta fight back, what I'm saying? And you're gonna treat us better. You're gonna treat us the best. You're gonna treat us like kings, like the black kings that we deserve to be. That kind of thing. That would be interesting. It'd be a little bit different. It would be a little bit edgy, and they could cut edgy promos. It could be, kind of racially charged undertones, some racial undertones there, where it's like we're fighting against the man, we're fighting against the evil of American society, we're fighting against this, this discriminatory company, and this, it would be such an interesting thing, and it could be a good heel act. Now, if they go the direction of babyface act instead, and just kind of keep Kofi a babyface along with the New Day, that would be good too. They would probably just stay as the New Day, just the typical New Day where they're dancing and all that. But that would it would be a little bit more predictable. It wouldn't be it's not a drastic change, and maybe some people wouldn't see that as a main event act. It's not necessarily a main event level act or main event level character. It's like, it's just a tag team guy, and then he won the championship, And they're still dancing, they're still booty shaking and all that. They're still doing their booty-os, corny, cartoonish, kid-friendly act. And maybe that's not exactly what people are looking for in a WWE champion, even with Kofi. But you know what? We never know you don't know what's gonna happen yet. He could still be the champion. It's interesting because I think between those guys, between Xavier, Kofi, and Big E, I chose Big E, no doubt. I think Big E has the look, he's got the size, he's got the mic skills, he's got the charisma to potentially be a WWE champion or a Universal champion. He could be a main event level guy. I think he was the NXT champion way back in the day, back in 2013 or something like that. And he was a top guy on NXT, but he just never quite became a top singles guy. I think at one time maybe he was the Intercontinental or U.S. champion or something, a mid-level guy, mid-level champion, but he just never became an actual main eventer. But he's a heavyweight, he's got the strength and all that, so there's definitely a lot of potential with Big E. I just don't understand why he was never pushed to the main event. I just don't really get it. I think there's a lot of untapped potential with Big E. He could be something, but he's become such a goofy character that I think some people just kind of will just forever look at him as some New Day tag team guy, unfortunately, like the muscle of the New Day, which I think is just so limited, It's such he could have done, I think, so much more. But, I really do, I like to see Kofi win it. I think he does deserve to be champ. Not necessarily because he's been there for so long, but because he's got the mic skills, the character, and the in-ring ability. I just don't want him to get injured. That's the number one, problem. And as far as, going back to his old gimmick, I know that's another thing that people complain about. Should he go back to his old gimmick when he first came in with the Jamaican music and all that? That you know it, SOS. I hear them shouting. SOS, I hear them fire. You know, and it's that Jamaican singing. It would be kind of a cool nostalgic. It's almost nostalgic now. It's almost like, oh, that was the past. You know, that was the old Kofi, and that would be, I guess, kind of all right. I wouldn't mind him going back to that as a singles, but the New Day is already kind of over. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, going back to that, it's not a bad idea. It's just, he would have to break up the New Day. He would have to split away. He would have to be by himself. You know. I mean, because now you're changing the theme song, and now you what are you gonna do? Like change it up, and what's gonna happen to the New Day theme song when he comes out? You know, as the champion, it's kind of silly actually. It's kind of like it's not necessarily regressing, but you're going back in time. You're trying to go back to the old style. You're trying to make him, you know, make him look like the old. I mean, is he gonna wear the old school Kofi trunks? You know what I'm saying? No more New Day trunks, no more New Day attire, no more strapped on unicorn horns on his head. I don't know, man. I think it's best if they turn into that militant heel faction. That would be a really cool you know, heel gimmick. That would be a main event level gimmick, I think. And I think he's got the skills to pull it off. So that's all. That's it for now. That's it for this episode of the Review Space. Definitely pulling for Kofi at Mania 35. Even if it doesn't happen, then, you know, too bad, so sad. I mean, they've had chances to push this guy. They never really went with him, especially back in 2009 with the Randy Orton thing. But, you know, he's got an opportunity again this year. So that's kind of cool. You know, almost 10 years later. Give him the belt. Why not? Definitely more charismatic than a lot of the other guys on the roster anyway. So subscribe to the channel, click on the bell button for the latest notifications, and check out the rest of the channel for more wrestling topic videos, including who is the greatest wrestler of the 2010s decade. That's already uploaded, and also is Batista an all-time great? And also, is Roman Reigns an all-time great? Are these guys all-time great professional wrestling stars? And so that's it for this episode of Review Space. Until next time, peace.